Hi, Phil Aston here from Now Spending Magazine, and it is week 3 of the playlist video series where I just share with you what's been on my turntable and what's been in my CD drive. And remember, it's great to see what you've been playing as well. So put that in the comments, what you've been playing, what you've discovered. And when I say discovered, that could be something you've had in your collection for years and you've only just decided to revisit it, let alone something that's arrived through your letterbox. So what have I been playing? The first clue is behind me, and this is The Doors and Weird Scenes Inside the Gold Mine. The reason why I've been playing this is because YouTube has kind of highlighted one of my videos and saying it's been demonetized because I used real soundtrack from the album on my video. It goes back to a time when I was experimenting and doing different things, and I wondered what it would be like to actually put some music underneath. It was an error, and there are quite a few videos out there that have been affected in this way, and not everyone can see them. So I was thinking about maybe redoing that video, but at the same time, it made me revisit this as an album. I've got it on CD as well, and it's a compilation album, but I do feel it's probably one of the best compilation albums out there. I'm going to do a video soon on another compilation album, which I feel stands on its own. I mean, what's that? Steve Coogan's thing, Alan Partridge show in the UK, when someone asks him what is the best Beatles album, he says, "Well, that's got to be the best of the Beatles, hasn't it?" And so and that's quite a funny part of this particular program. But which is the best Doors album? I could almost say it's this one, although I know it's a compilation album, and I know, for all the Doors periods, it's obviously the first album or whatever, LA Woman. But this really is a fantastic Doors album because it's sequenced in such a way. It is the best compilation album of the Doors, bar none. And I'll tell you something, that when I bought this, one of the reasons why I chose it was it didn't have Light My Fire on it. Not because I don't like that track, but I'd only heard the single, and it all reminded me of like Tom Jones or Engelbert Humperdinck. And I know that's, blasphemous for many of you to hear someone say that. But it's just how it was. I just thought his voice on that just sounded like a crooner. And he was, wasn't he? But to me, before I realised that the first Doors album, there was an extended keyboard and guitar solo on it, I only knew that. And people around me say, "Phil, you've got to listen to the Doors. You've got to expand your musical horizons," because I was just like heavy metal and heavy rock man. And so I don't know where to start. And this was a very well-priced double album. I love the artwork. And that's another thing that made it look like an official Doors album. And it wasn't called The Best of the Doors or The Doors' Greatest Hits. It was called Weird Scenes Inside the Gold Mine. It made it sound like it must be an official album. I didn't know any of these tracks, remember. Is that true? Well, I knew Riders of the Storm. I'd seen it on Top of the Pops, and it was a video. People going around on horseback in the rain, I think it was. But this, to me, was perfect. Because it didn't have that track on, which was the one I wasn't sure about. But everything else, Break On Through, Strange Days, Shame in Blues, Love Street, Peace Frog, The Wasp, End of the Night, Sondwall, Love Her Madly, Spanish Caravan, She Performs, The Spy, and the end of side 2, The End. So many parts of that song became like an earworm to me, just sinking in and out of my head at various times and coming back to me. Especially when I was walking around factory floors in the 70s. It just had this kind of feel to it that made me feel like I was on the inside of something, part of something, which I'm going to come to in a moment because of the way the sleeve notes kind of describe this. Side 3 was Take It As It Comes, Running Blue, LA Woman. Fantastic track. Also a great version by Billy Idol. 5 to 1, Who Scared Who, and You Need Me, You Need No Go Further, with 2 tracks which weren't on any other Doors album at the time. So they were kind of rarities, which made, even for Doors completists to have them all bought this. And side 4, Riders of the Storm, Maggie McGill, Horse Latitude, which was well scary. And When the Music Over from Strange Days, which is the kind of brother or sister of the end in a way. And I bought the CD version. I mean, I always thought, I wonder if Elektra Records had a lot of pressure to release this on CD, and they must have been thinking, why do we need to do this? Because you could just stick this together as a streaming playlist. And I think the compilation had a lot of fans because it is perfectly sequenced. We talk about a beautifully curated playlist now, whatever, but this was way ahead of its time. And the fact they left off, like My Fire, was really interesting. So it was deep cuts, but equally really essential cuts to provide you with the perfect doorway to experience the Doors. And there were certain things for me at a young age, because how old I was on a bought this? I was probably about 16 or 17, I think. And it talks about the fact there were 3 essential albums in the summer of 67. Now, bearing in mind, of course, this came out in 1972, which I was only 13. But the fact it talks about 1972 as if like it was, as if 1967 was like a lifetime ago. And it says, that it seems a faraway place in time. And we remember as if it's another world, another lifetime. Another lifetime. Imagine now going back 5 years, it feels like another lifetime. And we go back to 50 years celebrating albums that are 60 years of age. Most of the music on this album has an eerie, otherworldly quality to it. It doesn't say music on this compilation from this album. Again, giving this impression that it is like an official statement of the Doors. And he talks about, we can turn off the lights now. 1972 will be another year as the distance will be greater and there'll be other things to think about. The distance. It was interesting, was it? The blink of an eye. And it just talks about the fact that the music kind of drifts around the house and giving that your room and the way the house that you live in with your parents is never going to be quite the same when you listen to the Doors. So that really is the doorway into the Doors. I think it's perfect compilation. As I said, I've got another video coming along on something I feel is a perfect compilation. Where shall we go now? I'm going to go now, staying in the States, with a guitarist who I really, really admire, and sadly no longer with us. And I've tried my best to get everything by him, and it is Leslie West, and the album is Alligator. It says on my copy here that it came out in 2006, but it didn't. It came out in 1999, I believe. And typical of Leslie West, he would revisit songs he covered before in other parts of his career. And I don't know whether that was pressure from his management or the record label. So on this one in particular, you've got the Stealer, which he covered before, which of course is a classic song by Free. This album had quite a lukewarm reaction when it was released. It's very short, barely 30 minutes. But Leslie had got this perfect metal guitar sound at this point, where you just knew it was him. And so many of his peer group from the 70s and 60s had a unique sound. I mean, we went through the 80s where a lot of metal guitarists had a very, very similar frequency range to each other. And they all looked very similar. But from the 70s, you could always tell who was who. But what was interesting, what some guitarists, especially Jeff Beck, who changed his guitar sound from the 60s to the 70s, the 80s and 90s and kept going. Leslie West also changed his guitar sound dramatically, even though he was still seen as representing or being a blues rock guitar player. And he is. I mean, he never swapped tasteful guitar for speed, but his sound was really heavy. The other interesting thing about this album is that Stanley Clarke, who returned to Forever, Jazz Fusion, plays bass on this. So it has a really interesting lineup. And at Hawthorne Mountain King is interesting, but it's really stuff like Up All a Spell on You, Alligator, Whiskey, Sea of Fire. His guitar sound is fantastic. I listen to a lot of Leslie West, and you'll see quite a bit of it on these playlist shows. What else? So we've had The Doors and Leslie West. Jazz. My jazz selection for this week, not that there is kind of a genre plopping in and out of weeks, but it's kind of going that way, is Ritenour. And this album is called The Captain's Journey. This was my entry point for Lee. I've also got this on vinyl. This is a Japanese pressing by accident. I bought this off eBay, and it just happened to be a Japanese pressing. And it came out in 1978. And how did I first find this? I went to Solihull Library, where I lived just outside of Birmingham at the time. And they used to have a record library, and I borrowed it. And I borrowed it because it had a Gibson 335 on it. And Lee there looks as if he's caught a shark, and he's caught a guitar. And I didn't know anything about it or him, and I just borrowed it. And it was very different music to what I was listening to. But it's remained a firm favourite. It's kind of jazz fusion light, I guess. Some great stuff on it. But I'm a massively Ritenour fan. I know in later years he's come very much down the bossa nova kind of Brazilian, South American jazz route, that kind of stuff. But this period, and I do like that, but I really love this period of his career. I really do find this fantastic guitar playing. It reminds me some of it of latter day Jan Akkerman, I guess, in places. But it's jazz guitar, it's fusion, it's uplifting. Sometimes he uses vocals, but this is a wonderful album, and I've really enjoyed playing that this week as well. I've got some new stuff now. And this is a band I featured, I think, once before in their last album. It's called Aston, and I've had this a while, to be fair. So if the guys are watching, I'm sorry it takes me so long sometimes to get around to things. This is Haunting 1-7. The reference point is going to be Hawkwind, because I think I mentioned that before. So that kind of a prog band. But where I feel, and it starts that way, and you could easily think, like Phil said, it's like Hawkwind, etc. You're starting to file it away. But it's when you get to things like Dancing a War Dance, where this stuff goes into a totally different realm. There isn't like a latter-day Seizing the Banshees feel to it. Lots of kind of high-energy dance techno stuff, but rock guitar, prog. So again, where Hawkwind have also dabbled in ways. I think this is a superb album, and it's been played a lot. I'm not going to go through every track because, again, this is my playlist video. But if you don't know the Outstation, give that a listen and let me know what you think. And I think if you listen to it, I found the first couple of tracks were a bit kind of, I thought, this is like Hawkwind, and I started to judge and stick them in a silo where I think it was heading after the last one. But this one is not very different than the last album, but to me it's a few notches up. It's superb, really exciting, and I love the vocals. It's absolutely stunning. It's Amanda on vocals. She's got a superb voice, and it has this kind of Susie Sue type feel to it, but sitting on top of a prog band. Superb. So that's the Outstation. Next, staying with female vocals, but now heading back to the 70s. And it's Kiki Dee. I've Got the Music in Me, 1974. I love that track so much. It wasn't a hit, I think that everyone thought it was going to be, but it was played on the radio, and it had that kind of chorus that you just wanted it to go round and round and round, and it did. Anyway, the reason why I've been playing it is I recently picked up The Rocket Years by Kiki Dee for about 10, I think it was under £12 on eBay. And this has 5 CDs on it. And I've Got the Music in Me is on there with lots of bonus tracks as well. And there's a single I bought from when I was at school called How Glad I Am, and the B-side was Peter, and that is on here. This is a great little box set. And again, if you want me to do a separate unboxing video, I'll slot that in. But it's superb. I know there's another one covering her later career, which I haven't got. But this is superb. So that's Kiki Dee, and I've got the music in me. Have I been? Where else have I been going? I've also been listening to some great soul. And there's a couple of things that led me to this album, and of course Steve Winwood wasn't always seen as kind of course, described me as a soul singer. But I've also been listening to some Traffic and flitting around here, and the Traffic album off this little box set, which features 5 of their classic albums on it. And the one that I've been playing the most out of this little set was the Low Spark and High Heeled Boys. So I've been playing that, and then that led me to Mr. Winwood. And this album I bought on vinyl at the time. It was in the HMV sale, I think. And it was very different to the kind of stuff I was definitely listening to back then. When was this? 1988, I think it was. But it was basically a song on it called The Morning Side, which is a really mournful track about, it felt like some guy who was in a bar late at night, and he'd stayed down, had some beers, and he was reflecting back on his life and not quite sure which way to go, and moving over to the morning side. And it had a really, really emotive and visual aspect to it. And it still is one of my favourite songs by Steve Winwood. The other one on here is Hearts on Fire, which is almost a dance track, but the way he sings and the female backing vocals who sing the chorus, Hearts on Fire, again makes this a real highlight to me. And it was one of the first CDs I ever bought because of I just think Winwood's ear for production. All Steve Winwood's solo albums sound absolutely fantastic. Great work out for your stereo. And this one in particular, yes, it's an 80s production number, but I know a lot of people have issues with 80s production, don't they? I love it. I just love the scope of it. The sonics. So Stevie Winwood, Roll With It is the name of the album. What else have I been playing? And then I've drifted back to the early 70s for a bit of stuff. What have I got? I should have found the single for this because I think it would have been interesting. But it's because I do have it on the yellow Epic label, and it is Redbone. And this is The Witch Queen of New Orleans from 1971. Just a bunch of Red Indians chilling out and forming a rock band. Very different to a lot was going on. That's a great thing about the 70s, isn't it? That anything was available, anything could be signed and had a chance to float to the surface. And the B-side was Chant 13th Hour. That's the only other track I knew off this when I bought it. Obviously, The Witch Queen New Orleans is one of my favourite songs from the 70s, actually, when I was growing up. It had this kind of otherworldly feel to it because I didn't know anything about the band. I didn't know what they looked like or anything. An otherworldly, bit like The Doors. In the way the way I remember it being played on the radio and stuff. Who were this band, Redbone? But it's a great little CD, that. And apart from this, I've got a compilation, and it's the only Redbone I have. So if you are a Redbone fan, what else could I listen to? The next band are more well-known, and I have bought this purely because I didn't have it on vinyl. And it's the Quo, Dog Up to Head. This, although Pile Driver is seen as the place where Status Quo, all the lights came on, and they were the Quo with that picture on the front of them all in a row with their heads down and their hair down. Really, it had started here in 1971, wasn't it? Oh, yeah, because that was 72, wasn't it, Pile Driver? But this, when I was at school, considering it's only a year out, and because I became such a huge Status Quo fan, Pole Driver, Hello, Whoa, On the Level, Blue Fuel, could just keep going. But why did I not go back just a mere 12 months from Pole Driver to see what had happened before that? Because I could have done. Because some of the songs off here I was aware of. And obviously the main one would be Mean Girl, because that was released as a single around the time of Pole Driver, as Pine Records realised what they let go of. And Garundula, which I think was also around at the time. And they looked like the Quo, didn't they? So yeah, this cover is a bit biffed, but vinyl-wise, I've still got it came with the inner sleeve with all their kind of like crooners on it. Easy listening from Pie, because the Quo were really easy listening. And it is lovely stuff. So I now have that on vinyl. Very pleased about that. And what else? Oh yes, I'm going to come forward now into the 70s as I head towards the end of this playlist for this particular episode. Just a couple more things to go, I think. Yes. Is that correct? This is. Got other things lying around because I'm doing several videos at the same time. And it is. And this was inspired by Larry Graves, who mentioned this when I did my video about 10 albums that appear on lots of lists where people say these are terrible albums. And one of the bands I mentioned was Bad Company and Rough Diamonds. And Larry said that one of his albums that he really liked by the band was Burning Sky, because I think I'd mentioned at the core of the highlight of Bad Company's career was the first three. And this is album number 4, and it's Burning Sky, 1977. When I bought this at the time, so there was a bit of a Led Zeppelin thing going on here, in that there's no name, the band is not on the front or the back cover or on the track titles. It's on the spine, so they weren't that brave just to put that out as it was. Paul Rodgers had had his haircut and was obviously very much into karate at this point. I remember at the time thinking gatefold sleeve, because, gatefold sleeves, as we headed towards the end of the 70s, were disappearing. And for the gatefold sleeve, it was just a picture of literally something like the Grand Canyon with a red sky, burning sky. But I remember thinking, what a waste. What a waste of a gatefold sleeve. Surely they could have had pictures of the band or, I don't know, lyrics. And then on the inside, the inner sleeve had the names of the tracks on, but no lyrics. It's like someone designed that. There's a nice kind of, central of the vinyl had its own unique sleeve, which they did. But the cover was a bit of a letdown. And also, so was the album, in a way. I think the reviews at the time had said it was the Bad Company, a lukewarm kind of approach to the proceedings. So when I bought it and put it on, I thought the track Burning Sky was fantastic. I thought Morning Sun was fantastic. And I thought Leaving You was one of the best things they ever did. There's something about the way Paul Rodgers sings that song, especially, and I've said this so many times, when Paul Rodgers lets go of the rail and he must think, right then, that's it, we're done. I've done the verse, chorus, middle eight, verse, chorus. Let's just head towards the end, and I'll just sing whatever comes into my heart. And every time Paul Rodgers does that, I just wish the songs would never fade, which of course, sometimes in the bonus tracks on these deluxe editions, that's what happens. And why you always feel that whatever he did, however many takes there are, they would never be the same. And I felt that as we head towards the end of Leaving You, the way he puts it across, I just connected to that. It's absolutely superb. Leaving You by Bad Company, a deep cut, stunning. And then Like Water, his voice on that It's just fantastic. Then we have Knapsack the Happy Wanderer, which is kind of like a bit of a joke track. And I wasn't very good at, some bands shouldn't use humor. Bad Company had done that with Youngblood on the previous one. And and that was my least favorite track they'd done so far. So this was like, ooh. And Everything I Need was almost reggae in its approach, apart from when it came to those power chords and we had the chorus and Rogers kind of really let rip on that. And that was a single. And that bit in the middle when he talks about, about writing the letter and stuff was really cheesy. So that was where I started to feel, I'm not quite sure about that. On side 2 was Heartbeat, which is okay, but Peace of Mind and Passing Time, both of those. How did I feel about them? Yeah, because that's a good point. Good point, Phil. Because actually at the time, I felt that side 2 was the letdown. Because I was a huge Bad Company fan. And as I said, the first few songs on side 1, I just thought this was as good as anything Bad Company had done. I felt the end of side 1, it had dipped. And side 2, I felt it never really took off. Even Too Bad, which was seen as a highlight of Mick Ralph's contributions, I thought was a bit an obvious riff. And then, of course, Master of Ceremony, which went on for about 7 minutes, just sounded like they were just doodling in the studio. So, yes, I did feel that it was, they basically dropped the ball on this one. So Larry kind of made me think about it again. And this is the 2 CD deluxe edition, which is well worth getting, by the way. And it has, there are 14 unreleased tracks on the second CD. Alternative vocals, early versions, rough mixes, and of every single track. But when I listened to it again, side 2, I really liked. And in fact, when I played it through, it was side 2 I put on again and not side 1. It's interesting, the outtakes, especially Burning Sky. Too Bad there isn't a full version, but the 2 songs that I really enjoyed the most on this album was Peace of Mind and Passing Time. I think Paul Rodgers' voice and the quality of the melodies and the lyrics are just absolutely wonderful. And even Master of Ceremonies, I like that as well. Man Needs a Woman still sounds kind of like, paint by numbers in some ways. But Bad Company, Burning Sky. If you're into Bad Company, I think it's an essential piece of work. Absolutely. Right, I'm going to finish on, there's 2 to go. Is there? Yeah, I think so. This video, how long is this? Shall we go a bit further? Yeah. Have I been playing any full-on metal this week? I have. I have been playing some full-on heavy metal, and I'm going to go there next, I think. And this is a superb album by a band that I'll go into much later in life, and it is Testament. This is a great look at that, and this is one of these media packs, all the lyrics and everything you've got. And I think there's an extra disc of live stuff as a DVD documentary making of the album. And this is called Dark Roots of Earth. And it's absolutely brilliant. I love Testament. This isn't my favorite album by the band, but it's very close. I just think it's absolutely great. Highlights, Native Blood. Is probably my favorite. And A Day in the Death, Cold Embrace, Man Killed Mankind, Throne of Thorns. There's some angry dudes on this, and it's cool. But I really, really like that. So that basically saves me doing any dusting in the house, because you put this on and anything that's sitting on top of the surface just jumps up by about 2 feet. So great stuff. So it's really good to test out the foundations of your house. Still rocking towards the last but one, and it is UFO, and it's Walk on Water. an album that I didn't even know existed until years afterwards. Why was that? It's a good point, actually. But I think it's probably the 90s, isn't it? I think it was the 90s, wasn't it? Am I right? I think I am. See, the 90s, for me, was family time. We had no money because we got 2 kids and a mortgage, and buying records and even knowing what was going on around you, because there was no streaming, unless he was on the telly on the Friday Rock Show. I didn't know it existed. So I didn't even know that this had happened. And it's a very short album. It's let down. It could be. I wonder if it's because they did like new versions of Dr. Doctor and Lights Out, and they also stuck on a Mogwai track and Michael Schenker group track. And so it felt like as if they were on this particular version, because otherwise it was quite a short album. But when you listen to it now, and I think when I did my UFO ranking video, this was really high up on it, because Self-Made Man, Venus, pushed to the limit. An obvious riff, perhaps, but Phil Mogg's vocal delivery makes it an absolute UFO classic. Stopped by a Bullet of Love, Darker Days, Running on Empty, Knock Knock, and Dreaming of Summer. UFO, Walking on Water. Stunning. And then finally, last of all, because you've just watched The Pope's Exorcist on the TV, and this has got nothing to do with that apart from the word exorcist, and it is Tubular Bells. In fact, it's because one of my patrons, when we had a get-together, had mentioned, Tony had mentioned that he plays this album every single week, and he's played this album every week for about 50 years. And I find stories like that fascinating, and I absolutely love stories like that, because it makes me look around at my music collection, think, all the things that I love and how each of us has a different emotional connection to an album at different levels and different times in our life. But Tony talking about this, and he said he plays this, every week, So because I think the only time I've mentioned this is when the Cleopatra released the one with Brian Blessed, pretending to be the caveman, pretending to be, and it kind of almost pulled me off. So I played this is the original, it's the deluxe edition, which features the 2009 stereo mixes by Mark Oldfield, and it also features the 1973 original stereo mix, and it also features the 5.1 sound mixes by Mike Oldfield. So this is everything for me that I need from Tubular Bells. And the other thing that Tony mentioned, because it always reminds me, think about it. 1973, you release an album that's got one track on it. Who did that? It's absolutely stunning. But I was going to say, it had a kind of eerie, scary feel to me because of the film The Exorcist, which of course came out in the early 70s, which I sneaked in to watch when I shouldn't have been able to go into the cinema. But in the 70s, it was a different world. And even though I looked about 12, no one ever asked a question about going in to see the film. So it had that filter. But of course, as Tony points out, when the music from Tubular Bells appears, it's a positive sign, because that's when the priest appears in the film, which I hadn't even thought about. Anyway, so that has been my playlist for this week. So what have you been playing? Let me know in the comments below. Tell me what you've discovered, what you're hoping that might arrive soon. But again, most importantly, this is about celebrating what we have already in many ways. But thank you for all of your kind comments and kind words and emails and stuff. Please, if you can support me so I can do more of these, you can become a patron or YouTube member, and you'll get access to the private Facebook group, to the private WhatsApp group, which has lots of elements to it about deals and offers and suggestions and what we're playing. It's a really friendly, chilled out place to hang out for like-minded people. You can come to the twice monthly virtual hangout we have at the Now Spinning Arms, which is our own little virtual pub. And that's, and again, that's recorded for members to watch back if you can't make it. And of course, you'll get some discount on some Now Spinning merch as well. And you'll see all my videos earlier than anyone else. But thank you. And if you can subscribe as well, that would really help support what I do. But check out the podcast and the website at nowspinning.co.uk. Take care. Remember that music is the healer and the doctor. And I'll talk to you all very, very soon.